Ever get the feeling that how we do things in education is a bit, well, stuck?
You mean like we're trying to run the latest smartphone on a steam engine?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what we're diving into today with Al Kingsley and his My Secret EdTech Diary.
This isn't just some random tech guru, by the way.
No, not at all.
Kingsley's been knee-deep in edtech for years. CEO, school governor, you name it, he's seen it all.
And he's not shy about sharing both the good and the oh dear moments.
Which is refreshing. And one of the things he tackles head-on is this idea that our education system is kind of stuck in its ways.
He actually compares it to the Industrial Revolution.
Like,
Our schools are modeled after factories.
with bells, standardized processes, the whole shebang. Back then, it was all about churning out workers ready for the factory floor.
Makes sense in that context. But we're not in the Industrial Revolution anymore.
Exactly. And that's Kingsley's point. We need to prepare students for a world that's constantly changing, a world of innovation.
So where does EdTech fit into all of this?
Well, he talks about emergency edtech versus strategic edtech and how we often jump on the latest gadget without.
Plan.
Yeah, he uses the example of the LAUSD iPad rollout back in 2013. Remember that?
How could I forget? Millions poured into iPads, this big hope that they'd magically transform education.
And Kingsley was right there on the front line seeing how it actually played out. Spoiler alert, it didn't go as planned.
It became a cautionary tale, didn't it? Proof that just handing out tech isn't the solution.
It's like buying a fancy new oven but having no clue how to use it. You might get some heat, but you're not baking any masterpieces.
So what's the recipe for success then? What does Kingsley see as the key ingredient for what he calls sustainable EdTech?
For him, it comes down to this. Sustainable edtech is about so much more than that initial investment.
It's about the long game.
Yes, it's about ongoing funding, proper training, and having a vision that goes beyond the next school year or the newest gadget.
Because what happens when the budget gets tight or priorities change?
Exactly. All those shiny devices end up gathering dust in a cupboard. We've all seen it.
And no one wants to see their expensive EdTech investments turn into a tech graveyard.
Definitely not. It's about making sure the technology we're excited about today has the support and structure to actually make a difference in the long run. That's what Kingsley calls strategic edtech. And that's what we should all be aiming for, right? And it's not just about the money, right? It's about making sure those investments actually pay off for students in the long run. And speaking of long-term impacts, Kingsley dives into something we all experienced firsthand. The whole pandemic shift to remote learning.
Yeah, talk about a crash course in EdTech. It felt like we were all just trying to keep our heads above water.
Absolutely. Suddenly, everyone was scrambling for online platforms, troubleshooting tech issues, figuring out how to teach remotely.
It was definitely a learning curve, to say the least.
For sure. And Kingsley uses those experiences, as varied as they were, to highlight a really important distinction between what he calls emergency edtech and strategic edtech.
What's the difference?
So emergency edtech is basically what we all did during the pandemic, throwing anything and everything at the situation to see what stuck.
Makes sense. It was survival mode.
Exactly. But strategic edtech takes a longer view. It's about stepping back and asking, okay, what worked, what didn't, and how do we move forward in a way that's sustainable and truly beneficial?
So it's not just about reacting to a crisis, but about using those experiences to inform our choices moving forward.
Right. And one of the things the pandemic really exposed was the digital divide, the inequities in access to devices, reliable internet, even digital literacy skills. Did you see that playing out in your own context?
Oh, absolutely. It was heartbreaking to see students struggling to keep up because they didn't have the same resources at home.
Exactly. And that's something we can't just ignore now that things are sort of back to normal. But amidst all the chaos and uncertainty of those early pandemic days, Kingsley makes a really interesting observation. Even with technology suddenly thrust into the spotlight, pedagogy remained king.
What do you think he means by that?
He's emphasizing that technology, for all its bells and whistles, is still just a tool. It can enhance good teaching, but it can't replace it.
So it's not about simply transferring old methods onto a new platform. It's about rethinking how we engage students and facilitate learning in a technology-rich environment.
Exactly. And that requires a deep understanding of how students learn best, both online and offline. Kingsley reminds us that clear explanations, scaffolding, feedback, opportunities for interaction, those are all just as crucial in a virtual setting as they are in a traditional classroom.
He also talks about the importance of building community and connection online, which can be tough when students are physically apart.
It's about fostering that sense of belonging even when you're not all in the same room. And it's about remembering that behind those screens are real human beings with social and emotional needs.
Right. We can't just focus on academic outcomes and forget about the whole student.
Yeah.
How does Kingsley suggest we use EdTech to support student well-being, both in online and in-person settings?
Well, he talks about creating opportunities for students to express themselves, to collaborate, to share their experiences, things that contribute to a positive and supportive learning environment.
It's about being intentional with our technology choices
Mm.
and remembering that EdTech's role extends beyond just delivering content.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another key area Kingsley explores: the impact of EdTech beyond the classroom on the entire school ecosystem. And he starts with something that might seem a bit dry, but is absolutely fundamental: infrastructure.
It's easy to overlook the importance of a strong foundation.
Right. It's like building a house. You can have the most beautiful design in the world, but if the foundation is shaky.
The awful thing crumbles.
Exactly. And Kingsley stresses that investing in robust IT infrastructure is essential for creating that seamless user experience we all want.
It's like having a state-of-the-art computer, but running it on dial-up internet. It's just not going to work.
Exactly. And everyone suffers: teachers, students, even parents. But it's not just about the hardware and software, is it? Kingsley also dives into how technology can transform communication within the school community.
Because schools are all about communication.
Right.
Connecting with staff, parents, students is how we build those relationships and support learning.
And Kingsley argues that EdTech can make those connections even stronger.
In what way? Give me some examples.
Well, think about all those emails flying back and forth, those notices lost on cluttered bulletin boards. Technology can streamline all of that.
So less chaos, more clarity.
Exactly. Kingsley talks about schools using online platforms to share important information, track student progress, even message parents directly.
It's about making it easier for everyone to stay informed and involved.
Right, and it can save everyone a lot of time and frustration along the way. No more frantic phone calls or trying to decipher handwritten notes.
Definitely a win-win. And it makes you wonder, what about those traditional staples like parent-teacher evenings? Have they gone virtual too?
You bet. Kingsley sees the rise of remote or blended parents' evenings as a sign of things to come. And honestly, it makes sense. Think about it. No more rushing to school after work or trying to squeeze into those tiny desks.
Parents will definitely appreciate that.
Right, and teachers can use that time more efficiently, having more focused conversations with parents.
It's amazing how technology can reshape even those long-standing school traditions. But it's not just Kingsley's opinions we're hearing in this book. He brings in a whole chorus of voices from the front lines of education.
That's one of the things I appreciate about his approach. He's not claiming to have all the answers. He's sharing a diversity of perspectives from teachers, tech specialists, school leaders, all reflecting on their own ed tech journeys.
It's like getting a 360-degree view of what's really happening in schools. Were there any voices that particularly resonated with you?
One that stands out is Stephen Hope, a head of independent learning. He reminds us that the best app we have is the teacher.
It's about finding that balance, right? Technology should empower, not replace, great teaching.
Exactly. Another educator, Simon Blower, put it this way: EdTech should be used as another tool to develop learning. It's about being intentional, using technology strategically to achieve our goals.
It's not about the tech itself. It's about what we can do with it. So as Kingsley wraps up this deep dive into the world of EdTech, what's his final takeaway? What does he leave us with?
He challenges us to think differently about something we often take for granted: time.
Time, as in there's never enough of it.
Well, yes, but also this. Kingsley believes that technology, when used effectively, can actually give us more free time.
Now, that's a bold statement. We often think of technology as making us busier, more distracted.
Right. But he argues that EdTech, when thoughtfully integrated, can streamline those everyday tasks, those tedious processes that bog us down.
So instead of getting lost in the weeds, we can focus on what matters most: teaching and learning.
Exactly. And that's a powerful idea. What could you accomplish with an extra hour back in your day? What creative projects could you tackle?
It's about reclaiming our time and using it to pursue our passions, both inside and outside the classroom.
And that's something we can all get behind, right?
Absolutely. Well, on that inspiring note, we're wrapping up this deep dive into Al Kingsley's My Secret EdTech Diary. We've covered a lot of ground, from the historical roots of our education system to the transformative potential of technology. But most importantly, we've been reminded that EdTech is not about the gadgets themselves. It's about people. It's about empowering educators to create engaging, effective, and equitable learning experiences for all students. And who knows, maybe we'll even find some extra time for ourselves along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating, and keep the conversation going.